Why did we decide to make this ESG board game?
A world shaken by increasing natural disaster, sustainability has emerged as a pressing issue. Major corporations are stepping forward to join the ESG movement for change. Wistron's vision of sustainability through innovation brings ESG to your table in an engaging experience. Through gamified learning, stakeholders embark on an adventure, transforming insight into action and weave ESG values into the fabric of daily life and work.
What a meaningful game. So how do we play it then?
Beyond just educating employees and stakeholders, Wi-Thrive opens the door for everyday people to understand what ESG means through the design of 2 play modes. This game mode will take around 30 minutes. Start by shuffling the action cards. Then draw 6 cards from the top of the deck and place them on the main board. Each player has the following accessories: 1 player board, 2 proposal tokens, namely Proposal 1 and Proposal 2, 2 sets of ESG tokens, giving you 6 ESG tokens in total, 3 voting tokens, where each player would have a different color, and 5 point tokens. The key to deciding which sustainable action shall be adopted is determined through voting. Each turn, the lead player selects 1 to 2 sustainable actions from the main board. They then place a proposal token on each action they've chosen. Once the lead player is done placing the voting tokens and ESG tokens, the proposal will now be put forward for other players' consideration. Now it's time for everyone else to weigh in. Each player secretly decides if they want to support the lead player's ideas. They place their own voting tokens and ESG tokens on their personal boards, matching the ones on the main board. Each proposal can have a maximum of 2 voting tokens and 3 ESG tokens.
Hold on a second. Why do we need to vote in secret? Wouldn't it be simpler if everyone just knew how everyone else was voting?
Secret voting in games is just like when you're voting for something important in life. You never know what everyone else is going to choose. You have to decide if you want to go with the crowd or go with your own strategy, take risks, and see if you can outsmart the others. That's what makes the game exciting. Once everyone has voted, flip over the action cards you chose. See what type of ESG impact each action will have. Each player then flips over their proposal tokens and check if their ESG choices match the ESG attributes on the action cards. Correct proposals earn double the ESG points to that of the voting tokens used on them. The lead player also gets to keep the action card they proposed. If the action card had multiple ESG attributes and the player got them all right, they get 1 extra ESG point. Any incorrect ESG tokens used on the action card, whether the card has 1 or multiple ESG attributes, will result in losing ESG points. The lead player will lose points equal to the number of votes cast. The lead player will also lose the chance to obtain the action card. Correct proposals earn ESG points equal to the voting tokens used on them. If the action card had multiple ESG attributes and the other players got them all correct, they get 1 extra ESG point. Any incorrect ESG tokens used on the action card, whether the card has 1 or multiple ESG attributes, will result in losing ESG points equal to their votes. At the end of the game, every full set of ESG action cards collected earns the player 5 additional ESG points. Players take turns proposing, and a round is over when each player has proposed once. The game ends after 3 rounds. At the end of the game, each player's ESG points are tallied. The player with the highest ESG score wins and becomes the ESG Proposal Master for the company. Let's dive into our second game mode, co-op mode. First, place the main board and the scoreboard on the table. Shuffle the card deck and then place 6 action cards and 3 scenario cards on the main board. Each player has the following accessories: 1 set of voting tokens, where each player would choose their own color, and 5-point tokens. All players get together to look at the 3 scenario cards on the main board. All players discuss whether or not to switch out any of the action cards. Up to 6 cards can be changed per round, and each action card can only be switched once per round. Voting can only take place after the action cards are changed. Now that cards have been switched out, everyone gets to choose one of the 3 scenario cards and talk about ways to address the challenges it presents. Then players get to vote for the action cards they think will help the most. Each player has a total of 3 voting tokens, and each action card can only receive a maximum of 2 votes. When all 6 action cards on the main board do not seem to be solutions to the 3 scenarios, players can cast a maximum of 2 votes to the areas marked "Not Taking Any Action."
If I voted for not taking any action, can I still cast my vote for other action cards?
Great question. So for those who voted for not taking any action, since you've already decided to not take any action, therefore you cannot vote for other action cards anymore. Let's count the votes. After all the players have voted, we will determine whether the sustainable actions are to be executed or not, based on the number of votes received. To execute a sustainable action, we need a certain number of votes, depending on the number of players in the game. If there are 4 players, we need at least 6 votes. If there are 5 players, we need at least 7 votes. And if there are 6 players, we need at least 9 votes. Now, let's verify. Once all the players have cast their votes, and when the action card reaches the effective number of votes, flip over the scenario card previously chosen at the beginning of the turn for verification. This is to make sure that the action we're taking actually addresses the challenge in the scenario. If the action did not receive the effective number of votes, there will be no verification, which means players will not flip over the scenario card. If not taking any action gets enough votes, flip over all scenario cards for verification. Check whether any of the 6 action cards is a solution to the 3 scenario cards. After each round, both the scenario cards used and the action cards that have been verified will be returned to the bottom of the card deck. This means we keep the main board fresh for the next round. Before starting each round, replenish 3 scenario cards and 6 action cards. After every even-numbered round ends, in the 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th rounds, flip over 1 event card and execute the actions specified on the card. If an action card gets enough votes and is successfully executed, players earn 1 point for the ESG team score. Additionally, players who voted for the correct action card receive individual points equal to the number of votes they cast. For every incorrectly determined action card, the team ESG score is deducted by 1 point, and players who participated in the voting lose individual points equal to the number of votes they cast. Additionally, 1 fail will be recorded on the scoreboard. Not taking any action is a bold move. If it's the right call and gets enough votes, the ESG score remains unchanged, and players receive double the individual points based on the number of votes. But if it turns out to be the wrong choice the team takes a big hit and loses 3 points on the ESG team score, and players lose individual points based on the number of votes they cast.
If I chose the right action, but I was the only one voting for it, would I still get points?
Even if an action card doesn't get enough votes to be executed, the players can still get points if the action card matches one of the solutions on the scenario card. Players get points based on number of votes they cast for that action. Since the action didn't get enough votes, there won't be any points added to the ESG team score. The game ends when there are up to 5 fails. All team ESG scores and individual ESG scores are cleared to 0. The game also ends if the team ESG score is negative after 6 rounds. All team ESG scores and individual ESG scores are cleared to 0. The final condition for the game to end would be if 10 ESG challenge scenarios are completed. The team ESG scores, as well as the individual ESG scores, are then tallied. At the end of the game, if your team gets 5 to 7 points, your team receives the ESG Initiator Award. If your team gets 8 to 11 points, it's the ESG Dedicator Award. If your team gets more than 12 points, you win the ESG Leader Award. Apart from the team award, each player is also distinguished by the individual ESG rating. The player with the highest individual ESG score earns the title of ESG Action Master.